Hi everyone, good evening. I hope all of you are doing good. Welcome back to the reading practice sessions. Happy rainy days to all of you, to all the Sydney people. Take care of yourself, guys. It's Brisbane too, it's raining. I think in the whole of Australia it is raining at the moment heavily. Take care of your guys. Avoid going out if it's not really required, particularly the areas that are on high alert. Okay, that's good if it's not that heavy in some areas, but some of them are really drenching out. Okay, let's begin with today's practice set. And here is your first question for reading writing blanks on the screen. And you have 2.5 minutes to solve this, and then you have to post your answers in the chat box. Please make sure that all of you time yourself, and then when the discussion explanation is going on, please focus properly, listen to it properly, so that once we finish, and when I explain the answers the second time, then you can mark your answers as right and wrong. In the first round of explanation, please focus more on understanding whether your answer is right or not. You need to understand the shortcuts and the methods more. Right, so 2.5 minutes, you can start solving now and then post your answers, please. All right, should be done by now. Please put your answers, those who haven't. Okay, listen to the discussion now. This is the Romanian traditional pattern of food consumption as a whole is no longer a point in shaping a healthy and sustainable food behavior. The sentence is absolutely complete. No longer a point. Point is a noun, so we need to find out what kind of point it is. And we have a as the article before the blank. That means the word starting with vowels a, e, I, o, u cannot be the answers because for a, e, I, o, u we need and written before them. So that is why we can eliminate attribute cannot come with a and implication cannot come with a. And now we need to find out a type of point. Reference point is a thing, mention point doesn't have any meaning. That is why it will be reference point, means a point from where we can take reference of something, but mention point is not a thing in English language. So we can go with reference point in shaping a healthy and sustainable food behavior due to the growing discrepancies, dash the return to traditions and the constraints of sustainable development. Now the language is very difficult. We don't really understand what they're trying to say. So let's look at the options first. Looking at the options tells us very easy story. Between can come if they are talking about two things. To can come if they have written from already, from something to something. From and to come together. Amongst can come if they are talking about more than two things. So that, more than two things. So that will be amongst. So based on the answers also, sometimes we can make the analyzations. It's not always that the text can help us find the answer. The options can also help us find the answers. And with this, if two things are happening together, then we can say this with that. So here the blank says growing discrepancies dash 1 and 2. So whenever you have and written and there are two things, we can always go with between two things. There is no from, so we cannot select two. And there should be more than two things to select amongst, but we have only two things, and justifies that. So the aim of this study is to provide solutions for reshaping the food pattern by dash the principles of sustainable diet. You can frame any sentence with the word by, and you always will put ing form of verb with by. So you can try to frame any kind of sentence. For example, I am trying to make the snacks by mixing water and flour. So always with by, it will be ing form. You can never frame a sentence with by and first form of verb. So when we look at the options, embody, integrated, incorporating, and imbibe, we only have one ing form of verb. So that will be our answer, incorporating. Then they say the research conducted dash on qualitative data and the semi-structured interview. So first we should try, because the options are based on different forms of tenses. The best way to select these kind of answers is you can put them one by one, because at least one or two of them won't even grammatically fit. For example, they say the research conducted basis on qualitative data. So that's wrong English. The research conducted basis on. We need something between conducted and basis. So we can say the research conducted is based on, that makes sense, is based on comes together. So they say the research conducted was suggesting. So how can we say that the research was suggesting? Means in the past it was suggesting something to us. And the research conducted is analyzing is fine, but analyzing does not go with on. We cannot say is analyzing on. So we can say the research conducted, because it's already conducted. It is based on qualitative data, and the semi-structured interview was used as method of data collection from a sample of 21 Romanians traditional food consumers. The study led to a typology of respondents that dashed two consumption orientations, healthy and convenience, with two attributes, this and that. So here we have what is the noun of this sentence. The noun of this sentence is typology. A typology means singular noun. So a typology that dash two things with two other things. So a typology is singular, so we need a verb with s. So first of all, we can eliminate accompanied and manifestation, because they are not verbs within present tense. Out of builds and combines, which is the word that goes with the word with? So we combine one thing with the other thing. We don't always build one thing with the other thing. So we'll go with combines because it satisfies the requirement of the word with here. So the sentence says the study led to a typology that combines two orientations, healthy and convenience, with the other things. So that is how the answer will be combines. Now I'll repeat the answers once again. The first one is reference point is a collocation. Also with A, we cannot use vowels like attribute and implication. Mention point does not have any meaning. The second is whenever we have two things, we go with between. When we have from, then we go with two. From and two come together. Amongst is used for more than two things. Third, with by, we always use ing form of verb, so by incorporating. Fourth one is simply based on sentence structure. The research conducted, already the research which is conducted, this research is based on qualitative data. The fifth one, because we have to justify the word with here, so that is why we can say a typology that combines one with two. We cannot say a typology that builds one with two. Builds does not always come with the word with, but with combine, we always use the word with it. So these are the answers. Now you can put your questions in the chat box if you have any. Fourth blank. Fourth blank says, where is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. The research conducted dash on qualitative data and the semi-structured interview was used. So if you are putting was, because was is used here, so that is not right, because when we put ing form of verb with was, that means we are saying this thing was happening at that in the past. How do we know the suggesting was happening for a period of time? So when something happens in a continuous motion, only then we can use ing form of verb, otherwise we cannot use that. And also the word conducted already signifies that the research is conducted. Now we are just saying the research which was conducted, what is that research based on? So it, whatever the research can be, it is still based on qualitative data. So we cannot say the research was based on, because the research is still there and the basis is also still there. And moreover, ing can only be used when something in the past was happening in a continuous motion. Only then we can use ing form of verb. By plus V3. This is no rule, Ruby, sorry. The noun is not study, so the noun, the word written before of is the noun of the sentence. Okay. That's all for this question, everyone. So you have question number 2 on the screen and you have 2.5 minutes for this as well. Please post your answers in the chat box once you solve. And I think all of you can try sending your answers only to me rather than to everybody, because some students feel they're getting distracted because of that. So if you can do that, please. 2.5 minutes for the question number 2. All right, should be done. Pretty easy question. Very good. So this says another energy efficiency tip is to save by dash energy waste. So with by comes ing form of verb. We have two INGs, and it's easy language to understand that we have to minimize the energy waste. We cannot shrink the energy waste. Energy waste is often the result of dash. So the question is result of what? And whenever you have the question as what, we need to fill that with a noun. So energy waste is the result of heedless is not a noun. Caution is a noun. Carelessness is a noun. Negligent is not a noun. What is the noun form of negligent? Negligence is the noun form, GENCE. So we can eliminate the options which are not nouns first of all. And then based on the language, energy waste is the result of carelessness. Because if you are practicing caution, then energy will not be wasted. Caution will be resulting in less energy wastage. But here they say energy waste is happening because we are careless, such as forgetting to turn off the lights or leaving the heater on while away from home. A common source of waste in today's homes is leaving electronics on standby mode, dash turning them completely off. So this is also very common nowadays. We have standby modes or energy saving modes in almost every electronic item. So leaving electronics on standby mode rather than turning them off, we don't have rather than. Something that we can use is instead of, because instead of and rather than both are used when you want to say not to do the first mentioned thing but to do the second mentioned thing. So not doing something before the blank and yes to something written after the blank, in that case we can use instead of. This particularly applies to older stereo equipment, which if left plugged in and in standby mode can add an dash $67 a year. So with and, something with a vowel will come, so we can eliminate supplementary. So can we say can add an additive $67 and increase, we need of, an increase of $67, but we don't have the of here. So we can go with can add an additional $67 because we don't need anything else with additional. A year to your electricity bills. This is less of a concern for televisions because TV designs have become more energy efficient in recent years. Dash, they are still an area to minimize waste. So we are talking positive, but then we are saying still we can improve it. So that means kind of going opposite. So whenever we go opposite, we use however in that case. However is a connector that comes with a comma. So comma is also justified here. Once is like once in a time or once in a while. One time is we use the word once for. Maybe and probably means the same, and both of them are not connectors. So we'll go with however. That is still an area we can improve. So these are the answers. First, we can minimize the energy waste. Second, it's because of our careless attitude that we are wasting energy. So instead of putting them off, we can put them on standby mode. That's also a solution. Third is we have to pay additional $67, means extra $67. And the last one, we say, okay, they are energy efficient, but still there is an area of improvement. So but means however. No, caution is a noun. We don't need cautionness for that. So after of, you cannot say this is a rule that after of always comes a noun. It really depends where is of written. For example, there are cases where after of you need to put ing form of verb. There are cases where after of you need a noun. That really depends upon the sentence structure. So it's better to create a question on the sentence. Like the question I created was, it is a result of dash. That means result of what? Here we cannot put a verb. Here an action is not required. Here an answer is required. So that is a good strategy to create questions that will help you to understand the sentence formations, because this is not a thumb rule that after of always comes a noun or a verb. Heedless is when you when there is lack of attention, when you don't listen whatever any person is saying, so you don't pay attention to that. It is relating to careless behavior only, but it can be used in the way that we can say he or she is really heedless to my advices. That means completely negligent of, so you don't pay attention to. In that sense, we can use heedless. So with by comes ing form of verb. All good with this question, everyone? Okay. So you have question number 3 on the screen, and we have 2.5 minutes to solve this. Please put your answers in the chat box. Okay, should be done by now. Let's see, this says Winslow Homer, one of America's leading painters, was born in this year. His dash of sketching and watercolor lent his work a sense of spontaneity. So whenever we have a blank before of, or whenever we have a blank after a possessive pronoun, we need to put noun in that case. And if we look at the options, his mistake, his misinterpretation, his mastery, and his manipulation of sketching and watercolor. So out of the four options, three are negative, but the sentence has nothing negative. We just have started to introduce a person and his work. So there's no point of selecting a negative word. So we will say his mastery of sketching and watercolor lent his work a sense of spontaneity, as in Snap the Whip, but his deceptively simple subjects also dash with the theme of human fate. So something that goes with the word with. So his subjects dealt with colliding with. If we want to put colliding, we need a helping verb. His subjects were colliding with. Without helping verb, we cannot put ing form of verb. So both the ing form of verbs can be eliminated. And then accumulative with doesn't make any sense. It has to be accumulated. Also, still it does not go with the word with. The only option that goes with the word with is dealt with. So his subjects dealt with the theme of human fate in dash the elemental forces of nature. So if we don't get exact meaning of it, we can just understand forces of nature like fire, water, air, wind. So all these things are forces of nature. So with the theme of human fate in dash the elemental. So in negotiating, can we negotiate with the forces of nature? We really cannot negotiate with water or with sea or fire or wind with those things. In confronting, confronting has a meaning saying that in challenging or in tackling. So both ways we can use the word confronting. Then we have in opposed the. Opposed comes with the word in opposed to. It is not in opposed the. And in defensive the again is wrong English. So we have to go with confronting. Maybe they are trying to say in challenging the forces of nature or in tackling the forces of nature. For Homer, this was the sea. So which force of nature is he talking about? He's talking about sea. The sentence is absolutely complete. We should go with adverb here. This was dash the sea. This was randomly. So he is not going to randomly pick up topics. Seldom means rarely. In contrasting is not an adverb. Often is an adverb. So we can go with often means most of the times he used to paint something like something related to sea. That was his oftenly he used to pick up this subject. So for Homer, this was often the sea. In fog warning, night is falling, fog is rolling in, and a lone fisherman in a dory calculates the distance and the time remaining for him to dash to his home ship in safety. So fisherman wants to go back to his home, but let's see, time remaining for him to get back to his home makes sense. To reclaim, repossess is to take back. So if we are not talking about that his home is lost or his home is taken by somebody and he wants to take it back, that's not the topic. Clinging has very different meanings. One meaning of clinging is used in the sense that when you become too dependent on someone, that is how we use the word clinging. Or otherwise, it is used in terms of clinging with the wall. So in that something on the wall we can use with that. So here it doesn't make sense. We'll go with time remaining for him to get back to his home. That is how much time he will be able to reach home. So that would be the answer. The first one, we did not need a negative word, so there's no point selecting negative. So we'll go with mastery. Second, we need a verb that goes with the word with, and out of the four options, only dealt goes with the word with. And human fate in we cannot negotiate with the forces of nature, so we should go with in challenging or in tackling the forces of nature. That is confronting. The next one is this was the sea. We just need an adverb. So out of the options, randomly, seldom, and often were the adverbs. In contrasting is not an adverb. And out of the options, seldom means rarely. So how do we know that he used to pick up sea very rarely? So what were the other options he used to pick up? And randomly, better saying often, because from the limited context that is given, We can only assume that they are going to talk about, because they have given the example also of the sea only, something related to sea. So we should go with often he used to paint something about sea. So that is often about, often the sea. And the last one, time remaining for him to reach his home, to get back to his home. So that is why. So now you can put your answers. Often in the sea. Why do we need in? There's nothing in the sea. We are just thinking, like, think about a painter. He paints, and oftenly he paints about seas. He oftenly paints about water. So his subject is often the sea. There's nothing in the sea. Adverb can come before and after verb. Adverb can come before and after adjective, and adverb can come before and after helping verb as well. Go with the video once again, Shalza. It is discussed in the video already. All right. So this is all for this question. Any doubts, anyone? All right. So we have question number 4 on the screen. 2.5 minutes for this, and then post your answers, please. Which blank, Harpreet? We are using first form with which blank? Okay, let's look at the answers. We don't put even with commas. So the first blank says, the streets were filled with people, dash their numbers are difficult to estimate. The blank between two commas, we definitely need a connector, and it should be, we can read it in the beginning of the sentence also. So if it is between two commas, you can always read it in the beginning because that connector will establish the relationship between previous sentence and the next sentence. The streets were filled with people, but the numbers are difficult to estimate. So, but means however. So, we know there are so many people, but we don't know exactly how many are there. So, that's the story. So, we'll go with the however. Although an official census dash as early as 1753, it was not finally taken until 1801. So something that happened in past tense in 1753 cannot be are and cannot be have, because both of these are present tense options. Now, was proposing or had been proposed. Was proposing, if it would be an official census was proposing. What does that mean? The census was proposing to someone, or census was proposing something. But census was not proposing. Somebody proposed the census. Somebody presented this idea of taking the census. So that is the situation, because census was not proposing anything. So we cannot go with was proposing. It's not active voice. It is passive voice. Census had been proposed. Somebody proposed the census. It was not taken until 1801. At that time, allowing for a certain level of non-resident population. London had these many people of the country's nearly 10 million people. As a rough rule of dash, the Greater London of Johnson's time contained approximately 1/10 of the total population. Rule of thumb theory action course. This is a very common collocation, rule of thumb. So we'll go with that. And they say, where were we? Johnson's time contained approximately 1/10 of the total population and over half of the country's urban population dash to the census. So with previously is the connector if you want to put it. Previous to doesn't come together, until to also does not come together, prior to comes together, before to does not come together. So if you want to put before, it should be before the census, until the census. Previous to the census or previously, both of them are wrong. So it has to be prior to the census. Prior to basically means before. They register baptisms, not births, and interments rather than deaths. Individual record keeping was very dash. So how was the individual record keeping? Extraordinary. There's nothing positive that they have explained. So we cannot say it was very good, because extraordinary will mean that. Individual record keeping was very changing. Cannot even hold any meaning. We cannot say record keeping, because record keeping is just a process. So record keeping was very changing. We need an adjective that what kind of it was. Was very fitful and uneven. Fitful is a word that goes with movement. So something irregular movement is called fitful. But here record keeping is not a movement. So we'll say it was uneven. Uneven means it was not stable. They did not maybe used to follow a simple method. It was very unstable, inconsistent, that we can go with uneven, because fitful is with movement only. It also means unstable. Something which is not stable is fitful, but it only goes for movements. Like it is used for fitful breathing, because breathing is in a movement. There's a rhythmic movement of our heart, heart. So it can go with that. We can go with fitful sleep, because sleep means sleep has a pattern. So that can be fitful. But record keeping cannot be fitful. Right? So these are the answers. The first one, because we need to put but in the blank. So that's why we can go with however. The second was passive statement. That's why had been, and past statement. So that is why not have and are. Rule of thumb is a collocation. Prior comes with to, all the other options do not come with to, and the last one, record keeping, is a thing. So we can say it was uneven, means inconsistent. Any doubts, anybody? Even does not come in between two commas. That's the first thing I said, Sumit. Even is not a connector. Until also does not come with to. You were repeating the same things. What were you doing when I was explaining? I said until does not come with to. Rule of theory, rule of course are no rules. Rule of thumb is a collocation. Second sentence is passive. Keep making notes, guys. When I'm explaining, you need to write down the things at that moment. Okay, so fifth question and the last one for reading writing blanks for today. Please put your answers, take 2.5 minutes. Put your answers in the chat box. some mistakes. Air pollution reached a dash in the 19th century with the spread of the Industrial Revolution. So with A, we cannot put something starting with U, so urgency will be the first thing eliminated. Critical is not a noun. With A and the, we always put a noun. Critical is an adjective. Perplexity and crisis both are nouns, and some of you have written perplexity. Do you know the meaning of perplexity? Perplexity means confusion. Perplexity means unable to understand something is called perplexity. So air pollution cannot reach a confusion. Air pollution reached a crisis. So please note down the meaning of perplexity, those who did not know it. So air pollution reached a crisis in the 19th century with the spread of the Industrial Revolution and the rapid growth of the metropolis. The increase of domestic fires and factory furnaces meant that polluted emissions dashed considerably. So we are in past tense. So we need an answer in past tense. So increase and undulate can be eliminated because they are present tenses. So can we say that increase of domestic fires and factory furnaces meant that polluted emissions captured? Can we capture the emissions? No, we cannot, but we can say the polluted emissions surged. Surge means increased in number, or increased in quantity also means surged. It was at this time that the fog-laden atmosphere of London portrayed in the novels of Charles Dickens. So the sentence is absolutely complete. Portrait is a verb, so we need adverb here. How were they portrayed? Optically, glowingly, vividly. Subsequent without ly is not an adverb. So glowingly, can we show the Industrial Revolution glowingly? Glowingly has more to do with lights on it. Optically, optical is related to eyes. So it will be vividly. The meaning of vividly is clearly. So this is also a very common word that can come in the exam or the blanks or reorders. So clearly means vividly. Then they say the fogs of London could last a week, and fog-related deaths were reported on gravestones in the early 19th century. Dash the deterioration of public health. Little was done to check the smog. So there are two parts in this sentence with a comma in between. The first part is saying that deterioration of public health means public health was not good. Even then, little was done to check. Still, they did not take any action. So contrasting statements. When we have contrast with a comma in between, we go with although, despite, or even though. What we have in the options is we have despite, so we'll go with that. Also, if we check the grammatical rule for despite, despite comes when we have a noun written after the blank, and deterioration is a noun because it ends with tion. Despite the deterioration, nothing was done. Basically, given the dash of jobs that new industry provided. So the of means we need a noun in between, and if you look at the options, dangerous is not a noun, many is not a noun. Plethora and plenty both are nouns, both can come in this blank. Given the plenty of jobs, given the plethora of jobs, so it is basically based on what is more academic than out of the two words. Plethora is more academic as compared to plenty. That's why plethora will be the answer. Plethora also means a lot of jobs, many jobs. So these are the answers. The first one, perplexity means confusion. We cannot say air pollution reached a confusion. Air pollution reached a crisis, a problem. Very high level of problem, that is crisis. Second, we needed past tense, so we cannot capture emissions, but we can say emissions increased in quantity. So we'll say that they surged. Portrayed, how were they portrayed? Very clearly portrayed, means very clearly this topic was written in the books, in the novels of Charles Dickens. Very clearly he wrote about these things. The fourth one, dash the deterioration. The public health was damaging, still nobody was doing anything. So that means despite of this, nothing was done. So when we have contrast within the statement, we go with even though, or despite, and you have to find out the differences of these three in the grammar videos. Given the dash of jobs, given the plethora and plenty, both are fine, but plethora is more academic. That's why we are going with plethora and not with plenty. right? During comes with time period. Meant is past tense. That's why second one is past tense. Why you cannot come with A? Which you cannot come with A? Acha, you, A, E, I, O, you are vowels that they only come with and. This is the first thing we did in the first question today. Plethora means many, a lot of. All good with this one? So there are 2 grammar videos on the portal, and also there are some grammatical rules in your books printed, or I think they are also somewhere in the portal. Also, you have the list of rules where you can see that 2 comes first form, B comes third form. And apart from that, see, there are lots of rules which are not rules of thumb, which we cannot write and give it to you because it really depends on what the sentence structure is. And that is why we organize these classes every day. So for understanding the application of rules, you need to attend at least 20-25 of these classes. Everything cannot be written on a paper because then you will understand it in the wrong way. So during comes with the time period. Against comes when you say against an enemy, or you're doing something in contradiction to something. Whereas is used for comparisons, and despite is used for contrast. So these were all the questions for reading writing blanks that we had to do today, and now we are going to the orders. First question of reorders, plenty and plethora. I said plethora is more academic than plenty. First question for reorders, 2 minutes for this. Please post your answers within that time, and then we will discuss. This would be termed as an easy question from exam's point of view, and it should have been correct. So the first sentence was C because that has a name of the topic. So Great Molasses Flood is what we're going to talk about, which was a disaster in Boston, the place that occurred after a storage tank collapsed on this date, sending more than 2 million gallons of molasses flowing through the city's north end. So this was the topic. So basically flood, even if we don't understand, we understand flood and disaster. Then a lot of you have not written the D sentence with it, whereas it clearly said the deluge caused extensive damage and killed 21 people. And you have linked this sentence with all the other sentences, whereas none of the sentences talk about any severe damage or any what is it called, anything occurring. So unless and until you are talking, then you start talking about the tank was built in this year, tank was leaking from the very beginning, and tank was being used to produce alcohol. In all these things, how are you relating that 21 people were killed? So even if we do not know the meaning of deluge, we can understand the meaning of damage, and we can understand the meaning of killing of 21 people. So obviously people will be killed in the flood. That was number two. And then there was a complete story going on. That first we talked about when was the tank built. The tank was built in 1915 on this place. And then we are further explaining how it was built. Built quickly, the tank was problematic from the start, leaking and often emitting rumbling noises. That's also talking about it's built. And we say nevertheless means anyways, whatever was happening, it continued to be used, because the previous sentences were telling us that there were problems, but still it was used. So that nevertheless means going opposite to the previous information. And tank was built in this year, tank had problems from the beginning. In between we are saying 21 people were killed. So don't go into expecting that each and every word we will understand, but please trust yourself that the words which you understand, you are thinking right about the understanding of the story. So I always say that it is possible that by understanding only a few words in blanks as well as reorders, you can reach to the right answer. But the thing is, when we get some words which we don't understand, we really get frustrated and irritated, and we think like, okay, I don't know, let me put this as the answer. But you have to change this mindset, because otherwise in the exam it will remain the same. So this was the answer. I hope it's clear now. Here is your question number 2, quite a small one, 2 minutes for this, and please post your answers. Okay, should be done. So there were two different topics going on in this question. Three sentences were about one topic and one sentence was on some other topic. And this thing we have already discussed, that we will always start with the sentences which are in majority. So they were talking about bones and they were talking about joints. Three sentences are about bones. So we should start with the bones topic. Bones are extremely strong. One of their means referring to bones. So it's a direct reference. The reference rule that we do in the strategy classes, that's being applied here. Bones are strong. One of their main functions is to protect organs. And then we are applying example rule. Example always comes right after the explanation. Just now we said to protect organs, and then we are giving the examples. Which organs? Heart and lungs. So that is example rule. And then we put a sentence which is not related to bones. So we'll put it at the end. There are three types of joints: this, that, and those. Right? So what did I started with? Whenever there are two different topics going on in the question, the sentences which are majority in number, we start with that topic. So there are three sentences about bones, only one about joints. So we should start with bones, not about joints. Because if we put joints at number one, then what we'll put after that? How can we start talking about bones after that? Is there any relationship given? So this was BDCA. Make your rules stronger. Go through the strategy class again if you do not remember the rules of reorders, because they are very easy and they're very important to get the right answers. Third question and the last one for today, 2 minutes for this, and then post your answers, please. Good, very well done. A lot of you have done it well. The first sentence, it was very clear. The most general sentence was E, and almost all of you have got it correct. Financing of Australian higher education has undergone dramatic change since the early 1970s. This is a general statement that we are going to talk about the changes in the Australian higher education system. Before this, we cannot give the changes first. First, the general sentence will introduce that we are going to talk about changes in Australian higher education, because all the other sentences were telling us what the change was. So that means they are giving the details and the explanations. So first was this, and then the story starts from B sentence. Although the Australian government provided regular binding for universities from the late 1950s, in 1974 it assumed full responsibility for funding higher education. That is, they abolished the tuition fees with the intention of making university accessible to all Australians who had the ability and who wished to participate in higher education. So this is the story starting. Although it was happening from 1950, but in 74 they took the full responsibility. And then it was just going with the timeline that they gave us. 74 this happened, and then in late 1980s, since the late 1980s, there has been a move towards greater private contributions, particularly student fees. And then 89, in 1989 they included a loans scheme to help students finance their contributions, and with the loans scheme they have referred to it with the further explanation of loans, saying this allows universities. This means the loans scheme allowed universities to remain accessible to students by delaying their payments until they could afford to pay off their loans. So this allows basically means this scheme allows, because it is further explaining us the loans. Yes, Harpreet, right. So that's what I said. A timeline rule was being followed. Just you have to find the general statement first, and then the timeline. Why can't A come at number 2? What is A explaining us? This allows. And what is happening in E that can allow the changes? Is there anything happening in E? E just tells us there was a change. Which change? This class finishes at 8:30 according to Sydney time. Right, so these were all the questions that we had to do for reorders today, and now we have to start with reading blanks. So here comes our first question, and you have 2 minutes for this. Please post your answers once you have done. Okay, should be done. Well done, Anamika. Most program managers assess the value and impact of their work all the time when they ask questions, consult partners, make assessments, and dash feedback. So we get feedback. What is the best way to say get here is when we obtain feedback. They then use the information collected to improve the program. Dash such informal assessments fit nicely into a dash definition of evaluation. So we have a blank with a comma. That means we need a connector. We have two connectors with capitals, however and indeed. We know the use of however, but still most of you have done it wrong. However comes when we go opposite to the previous sentence. That means if the previous sentence is positive, the sentence after however should be negative. But if we look at here, the previous sentence was talking positive, collected to improve something, and the next sentence is also positive. It fits nicely into, so I don't know what is the reason for selecting however here. And those of you who are new, that's fine, but those who have attended a lot of classes, I'm not expecting however from you. So there's no point of putting however, because as I said, however conveys opposite information, but these two sentences are positive. There's nothing opposite. That is why we should go with indeed. Indeed is to continue saying the same thing and you want to emphasize that yes, the previously said thing is right. That is when you use indeed. Such informal assessments fit nicely into a definition of evaluation. So it is a complete sentence. Definition is a noun. So we need an adjective. What kind of definition it is? Any word that can describe a kind of definition. We can say broad definition of evaluation as the dash of the word. Whenever we have a blank before of, we put a noun in that case. If we look at the options, we have three options: intended, examination, and best. Out of this, only one is noun, which is examination. And the last one says, and throughout this manual, the term program will be defined as any set of organized activities supported by a set of resources to achieve a specific and dash result. So what kind of result? Specific and intended, because the only options we have is intended and best. Best is third form of verb that cannot come without the. So we cannot put best here. So we are left with only intended result. So these are the answers. The first one, we get feedback, that is we obtain feedback. Second, the sentences were not opposite to each other, not contrasting. That's why we cannot go with however, so we should go with indeed. Broad definition, kind of definition. Blank before of, we need a noun. Examination was the only noun we had. And the type of result, best needs the, which we don't have because it is V3. So we will go with intended result. All TION words that end with TION are nouns. I hope it's clear with everybody. Any doubts anybody has? Examination is a noun. So you can listen to the repetitions of the answers with the by going back to the recordings. So here you have question number 2 on the screen and 2 minutes to solve this. Please put your answers in the chat box after that. Let's look at the answers. Content. Content is not a noun. Okay, let's see. This says due to its affinity for water, pure anhydrous sulfuric acid does not dash in nature. So because of something, this acid does not dash in nature. So we can say we can say it does not exist in nature. Sorry, the second one says volcanic activity can dash in the production of sulfuric acid. So where does it come from basically? Volcanic activity can result in this production, in its production. In the production of sulfuric acid, dash on the emissions associated with specific volcanoes. So with on, we can say depending on. Then they say these aerosols can then reform into sulfur dioxide, a dash of acid rain. So with of, we need a noun. So what can we say? A content of acid rain, constituent of acid rain is better. Constituent would be means one of the elements found in acid rain. Content will not mean that. A constituent of acid rain, though volcanic activity is a minor contributor to acid rainfall. The sentence is complete. So we need adverb, that how much minor it is. So adverb is only one given, relatively minor. So we should select that. So content is like we say, what is the content of this book? In that sense, we use the word content. But acid rain has lots of acid in it, so lots of different elements in it, and we can say one of the elements. So one of the constituent is how we can use the word. One constituent of acid rain is sulfur dioxide. Any doubts, anybody in this question? All good with this one? Relatively ends with ly, so it is an adverb. Constituent means one element, one of the parts. That is how we use the word constituent. So question number 3, 2 minutes for this, and then post your answers, please. Okay, should be done. Post your answers. All the rules that we have already discussed today are being applied here. The majority of US electricity generated in utility scale facilities is from coal or natural gas. Another chunk comes from nuclear power plants. All of that electricity generation produces around a third of US energy related carbon dioxide dash. It's a very, very common term, carbon dioxide emissions. The single biggest dash to GHG emissions means greenhouse gas emissions. This is the single biggest what? Single biggest contributor to means this contributes the maximum to the greenhouse gas emissions. As you improve the energy dash of your home, so before of we need a noun. What noun do we have? We have energy efficiency is a term and also a noun, energy efficiency of your home. You need less electricity and thus rely less on carbon intensive power plants. This reduces your home's demand from the plant, which dash benefits the environment. So there were two things happening here. This reduces the demand from the plant. That's one thing, which in turn benefits the environment. That if this will happen, this second thing will automatically happen, so which in turn benefits the environment by dash their carbon dioxide emission. So with by comes ing form of verb. This we did today. So we have by fitting the emissions. We cannot fit the emissions, but yes, we can definitely reduce the emissions. So you'll say by reducing the carbon dioxide emissions. Right? Any confusions, anyone? Any questions or any doubts? What else can we put in number 4, Sandeepa? What did you write in number 4? So can we say this reduces your home's demand from the plant, which dashed the benefits, which decreased the benefits? This is present tense going on. We cannot put decreased here. We cannot put more over here. Which fitting benefits doesn't make sense. Which factor benefits doesn't make sense. So the only option, even if we fit every option, even then there's only one option that fits, that which in turn benefits. That means which as a response or which in return as a result. Okay. Yes, the words end with TION are nouns, LY are adverbs, and there are lots of other rules which you have to go through when you will watch the videos. These two are not the only ones. So you have to watch both the videos so that you come across all the other rules as well. So question number 4 and 2 minutes for the fourth question. Then put your answers, please. Should be done. Please post your answers. Okay, let's see. The first World Cup dash back in 1930. So we need a past tense here. We have two past tenses. The World Cup occurred. The World Cup took place. World Cup cannot occur. Occur goes with things that naturally happen, like tsunami occur, drought occur. Things which are planned and done by human beings, they don't occur. So we'll say took place in 1930 and was proposed by this person who wanted to create an international competition between men's football teams. The tournament dash of 13. So what verb? A verb that goes with of and should be in past tense. So we had past tense consisted of, permitted of, contained of. Contained does not come with of, but yes, consist always comes with of. So we'll say the tournament consisted of 13 invited teams and took place in Uruguay, who also won the tournament. The World Cup is played every 4 years. That dash time for the qualification tournaments and playoffs to take place. The World Cup is played every 4 years. That means this thing allows time, means this thing gives time so that we can have the playoffs, we can have the semifinals, qualification rounds. For 32 national teams to play off in the month-long most prestigious soccer tournament in the world, qualification for the World Cup can begin as dash as 3 years before the last tournament and can last for 2 years. So we can say as soon as or as early as soon as is related to future, but here we are not talking about future. So you are just giving the reference of the time period. So we'll say can begin as early as 3 years before the tournament. So as soon as is to talk about the future time period. So as early as 3 years before the tournament, we are talking about past. So these are the answers. Any confusion, anyone? Took place back. You don't have to read these three words together. So you have to read the first World Cup took place back in 1930. So it's not like any word we can pick up from the sentences, any group of words. It's not that all the sentences relate, all the words in a sentence, they relate to each other. There are parts, segments in a sentence, like the first World Cup took place. When did it take place? Back in 1930. So there are different ways of reading the sentences to understand which part comes together and which part comes together, but they're separate to each other. Okay, this is past sentence and we use after that, use s after that. No, because this, whatever is being written in this sentence is a fact, and facts are always written in present tenses. The World Cup is played every 4 years. This is a fact. And this thing allows time for playoffs. This is also a fact. This is not based on any tense. Okay. All right. So we are left with the last question for today. And then 2 minutes for this, and then post your answers, please. As soon as is for future, Tuba. Okay, should be done. Please post your answers. The sentence, the first sentence starts with although. Those who are putting with after the comma, learn the use of although. When the sentence starts with although, that means there should be two parts in the sentence, one positive and one negative. So after comma, you cannot say with there. You don't have to relate them or connect, sorry, you do not have to connect them. If you put with, you are connecting them. So this says, although our ability to easily pick up a new skill declines with age, dash a specific type of mindset can help you learn effectively. So here it will be harnessing. Harnessing means putting something in a particular way into use, using the best possible energy and putting it into use. That is how we use the word harnessing. The sentence, the negative part was that we say that we cannot learn new skills when as we become older. That's a negative part. And then the positive mindset, a positive statement, the opposite side of the story says, but if we have a specific type of mindset, then we can do that. So that is the use of although, one positive and one negative side, and they cannot be connected with conjunction in between. And this says harnessing a specific type of mindset can help you learn effectively as an adult. As you set about learning a new skill, there will be dash and moments of failure. Moments of failure is a negative word. So here also we need a negative word. Moments were plural. So here also we need a plural word. So plural and negative. There's only one option, frustrations. So if we start learning a new skill, there will be frustration, there will be moments of failure, but these may in fact be the most important experiences of the whole process. After years of experience in journalism, Vanderbilt says that the new challenges were a change to his professional complacency. So what kind of change were they? We don't know because we haven't read anything about his whatever his story is. That is why we should read the next sentence to find out whether the change was good or the change was bad. It sort of opened my mind and brought me back to this sense of not knowing. So opened my mind cannot be negative. That means it was a good change for him. So good change here is can be welcome change. The challenges were a welcome change to his professional because they opened his mind. This was especially true dash the skills such as drawing. So this thing was especially true for skills, means when he talk about skills, this is very true in case of skills such as drawing. That already felt somewhat dash. That already felt somewhat, so some any feeling kind of word felt similar, familiar. That already somewhat felt familiar. The learning of the thing itself was often different from what I imagined. My expectations were constantly being upset. So means if you learn any skill, just like drawing, that already felt somewhat familiar. That you know what drawing is basically. You're familiar with drawing, and he was taking that as an example. That even those things open your mind if you try to learn them. So these are the answers. Harnessing means putting something into use in a very particular way, using the best possible way of your mindset. Second, there will be negative word, plural word. So frustrations is the answer. Third, what kind of change? When we read the next sentence, we came to know that it was a good change for him. So we'll go with welcoming change or welcome change. The fourth one, this is especially true for the skills, means if we talk about learning skills, then yes, this thing is true, just like drawing, which is somewhat familiar thing, but still you can learn something new in that. So this is the right way of analyzing that what kind of word do I need. Before knowing that what kind of word you need, you cannot find your answer. Then it is about making guesses. So first you should know that what are you looking for to fill in the blank and then find that from the options. Anguished also means something negative. It's a feeling when you don't feel happy about something, that you can say I'm anguished. Kind of angry, kind of frustrated. But we don't need ed form. That's why that cannot be the answer. Right? Any other doubt in this question, anybody? All good? Okay, so these were all the questions that we had to do today. So first one, Anamika, is harnessing. That means utilizing your brain in a particular direction. And last one is talking about skills like drawing, which is very familiar thing, means drawing is very familiar. Welcome change, because we needed a positive word. What kind of change is it? It is a positive change. So that's why we went with welcome. So the video will be uploaded on your portal maybe after half an hour of the class. If you have any problems, that means if you're confused about something, you want to re-listen to the explanation, you can always go back to your portal, go to that particular question and listen to the explanation again. Right? And now those who do not have any questions, yes, you're free to leave. We do have a class tomorrow, the last one for this week. Please do come back. Please do practice. Keep making a lot of notes, all the things that are new for you in the classes. You should be noting them down. And then those who haven't watched the videos, you need to watch the videos first. And yes, till that time, take care of yourselves. It's a wild weather going on, so take care of yourself and good night. See you again on Monday.